Hi, everybody. Welcome to the E-Commerce Foundation webinar, zooming in on e-commerce in China. Hopefully everybody can see and hear me okay and that it all looks good. I've been listening to too many podcasts lately, so I think I keep trying to do this as if it were a podcast. But anyway, okay, so let's start from the top. Who am I? I am Sarah. I'm the Research Coordinator at the E-Commerce Foundation, where our mission is to foster global digital trade. We do this in a lot of ways. One of them is, of course, this webinar, but we also publish reports, and that's what we're kind of celebrating today. We published today the China report. You can download it for free at the e-commerce wiki if you'd like, and that's why we have our two amazing panelists with us. Okay, so why we're doing this webinar. The webinar is really for small to medium-sized retailers, but really anybody who wants general information about the Chinese e-commerce market. We would love to hear from you how we can do it better, so keep that in mind for after. Okay, and also if you have questions, you can put them in the little chat box, and my amazing researcher Isabella will sift through them and see what we can find and answer for you. Okay, now I'm done with that beginning stuff. I'm gonna unmute our amazing speakers today so they can say something. First up, our panelists, we have Mr. Joseph Yuen, and I'm probably pronouncing that super wrong. He's the board chairman of the Hong Kong Federation of E-Commerce. And if you could give us an elevator pitch for who you are and what you do, go for it.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Joseph Yuen, and I'm the chairman of Hong Kong Federation of E-Commerce. It is a non-profit organization in Hong Kong since 2014, and our job is to help develop the e-commerce business environment for Hong Kong, and as well as obviously mainland China and around the region. Our members coming from the e-commerce ecosystem, from marketplace, e-commerce merchant, IT developers, digital marketing, online payment, and logistic companies. So we have a quite good mixture of the ecosystem for the internet industries. And one of the key missions for us to do is to definitely increase the percentage of e-commerce in the cities and try to protect our consumers.
Cool, thank you very much. I think that gives a really good picture for what you do. Okay, next up we have, and this one I'm sure I will not say incorrectly, we have Mr. Raymond Li with us. He is the CTO of Allegravita, right? Okay, and then, yeah, if you want to give us an elevator pitch for who you are, what you do, and how to actually pronounce that name, that'd be great.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Joseph. And I'm Raymond Li. I'm from Allegravita. I'm CTO and China partner of Allegravita. And in short, Allegravita is a PR company, that public relationship company that helps all the companies outside of China which wants to go open the China's market, And we founded back in 2003, and over the years we worked many industry sections, such as food industry, sports industry, and mining and financial and wine and other stuff. Recent years we're focusing on the internet industry, and to be specific on the domain name industry. And so we have for now we are working closely with one of our good clients, which is .shop, which is very close to the have very deep connection with e-commerce. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, and it's cool because .shop is actually one of the sponsors of the reports, which is cool because that's how we can actually make them available for free on the wiki. Otherwise, we really couldn't do it because I'm super expensive, of course, for all the research. Cool. Well, so obviously you can tell that we have two amazing experts here. Now that they've vetted themselves on camera, we can continue. I'm actually going to start off with Joseph. So hold on, let me just mute you, Raymond, that way nobody gets feedback. Okay, so Joseph, I'm going to start off with you. This is the best question that I came up with, I think. I'm American, but I live in the Netherlands, so I will be blunt. Fake products are always the talk of the town regarding the Chinese e-commerce market. I think that's the idea, right? That's the well-known idea that that's an issue. Can you speak a bit about this issue and the impact that it has on SMEs, so small to medium-sized enterprises, selling both domestically in China, but also if they want to sell into China?
Obviously notice this is a phenomenon. I think that's not just China, but in e-commerce world, there's a lot of parallel trade, gray market, and obviously we call it fake or duplicated products. The phenomenon I think is coming from two angles. Like one is from the seller side and from the buyer side. Obviously, there's a demand for the product, and that's where the sellers is existing. I think if you try to describe the entire China market, right? There's a very big scale from very mature educated consumer from the city side, and obviously the other end of the scale is there are a lot of people who is relatively not well educated in the brand name product. So sometimes when they buy fake product, they may not even notice it's fake product. And I think the message for SMB, coming into China to do business in China, whether you try to do it as a domestic market or you try to position yourself as a cross-border import players. I would say that if you try to compete in the domestic market, my advice is that the consumer market is growing. They are becoming more educated. They are become more smarter. But don't forget, there are still quite a large group of people. They are in particular look for fake product to buy. So when you are thinking that you're coming into the domestic China market, where you want to penetrate a particular product sector that you think that is a huge market space, you do need to do some research out of that market space. What are the percentage of people who is really willing to buy a genuine, good quality products that you are producing? Because, or otherwise, it's not that how much effort you put yourself to make yourself a genuine. It is that if the consumer themselves, they look for cheap solution, cheap product, they don't care if it's a genuine or it's a fake, then no matter how good you do, you're not going to serve that market. So that's the domestic market. For cross-border e-commerce market, so you will try to picture yourself that you are a product selling from overseas, then there's a different situation. You can do it by the way how you handle the logistics. So are you shipping your product directly, every single purchase from your originator country into the consumer's hand, or are you going to bulk ship the entire cargo into China and then from China distribute locally? That will distinguish how consumer look at you as a genuine product or comparing to fake products. In the market, I think this is more than just China. In many parts of the world, Southeast Asia, in America, e-commerce merchant, they like to do something what they call free delivery, right? But we all know there's no such thing called free. Free delivery, obviously they absorb the logistic part of the cost in the entire purchase. But just now we were just talking about if you are positioning yourself as an overseas cross-border seller, then when you're handling your logistic, which you are directly sent from overseas, it will make you difference if you can show and prove to you that the product is being sent from original countries and is a genuine cross-border product. That would help, and the consumer in China, they can distinguish whether you are a product really from overseas or domestic. So the final point of the advice is that sometimes you want to save your cost in terms of logistics. So you will ship a bulk purchase into China and then distribute locally to make the delivery cost as low as you can. But at the same time, you ruin whatever that you are the originated overseas, that thing. So sometimes when you are considering being a import overseas cross-border sellers, do take into account that if Chinese consumer, if they can see your product being packed and shipped from say Europe or from US, that will give them a more confidence to buy your product.
So I never actually thought about this. I'm glad I asked the question then, because I also, while you were speaking, I thought I found it interesting because I think sometimes that we forget that a lot of people would prefer not necessarily a fake product, but they might not always want to pay what they have to pay for the actual, whatever it might be, the luxury item, let's say. We have a lot of people who have like fake Gucci bags and nobody minds, it's fine. So I don't know, I think, yeah, it's about branding, how you said. So it's about making sure that you let the consumer know you are coming from the US or from Europe and letting them know that. I think that's really good advice for cross-border. Okay, great. Actually, Raymond, I promise I will get to you, but it's a follow-up question, actually. Sorry. Okay, so Joseph, once more, what, if any, are some of the solutions that, let's say, your organization is working on at a higher level, let's say government or stakeholders, et cetera, to remedy the issues that, because it seems that it's not necessarily that the products are not real Gucci or what have you. It seems more that it's how they are marketed, how they're branded. Because if they're marketed as being real and then they're not, and that's a bigger issue, right? So that's an issue with transparency and just ensuring that people know where something's coming from, as you said. But for your perspective, what is it that you would like to see done, or what are you working on getting done from a government perspective, or to ensure that, just to remedy the issue around fake products for consumers?
Right. There's a whole set of procedures where we can come into. A lot of people thought killing fakes is difficult. Well, we all know that from technology standpoint, from policy standpoint, it is not difficult at all. I mean, if you can have third party or whoever the company to do the authentication, or they become a third party verification center, if you can trace it from logistic, from payment, from storage, every single step to trace it up, of course you can solve the problem of fake. The problem is who is going to do it. In China these days, waybill, waybill, right? When you ship something, waybill can be fake. You know what? And the e-payment that you pay something, right? It show up on your screen that you have paid $300. That can be fake too. If all these can be fake, who can guarantee anything? Now the thing is, there's two issues here. As I have just said, if there's a third party that has a high ethics level, that can ensure that the shipping is trusted, is real, the payment is real, the taxation being get through the country is real. The question is, the marketplace, the what we call the market, the giant companies, the influencing of those giant groups are bigger than any third-party company. Am I right? So, well, you know who I'm talking about, right? Those big giants, right? Those giants in the world. They are so big that if I create, or even a non-profit company, or even a government, or even anybody, they create a third-party authentication center to ensure that the logistics is real, everything, the product is real. But unfortunately, no matter how big you make that organization, you cannot be bigger than the giant. Now, if no matter how good you are, you cannot be bigger than a giant. What happens is, if you're the consumer, where do you go, right? I mean, how can you make something more influencing than those giants? So you put it in another way. What if those giant e-commerce marketplace, they do their own authentication? If they do their own authentication, right, obviously the problem can solve. But then the question is, in the market, there are just so many attraction going into selling fake. If the marketplace itself, that those e-commerce giants, they are a commercial entity. If they shut off all those fake shops overnight, what will happen to those giants? Right? So are they going to do it seriously? They won't do it. So they can't do it, because if they're going to do it, they're going to shut themselves down. But the third party can't do it either, because the third party can never be bigger than those giants, even though the government, even Beijing government, China central government want to do something, but they could not be, the influencing they do cannot be bigger than the giant. And no matter how much money you dump into doing this, you are just like throwing sand into the ocean. You can't change it. So this is the situation right now. So we do not want to ask, or particularly like me, myself, is a Hong Kong people. We don't ask government to do things, because that's not the right way to do it. So we can only wait until there's one big force that can solve the issue. Well, that's consumer themselves. It is. If consumer themselves, they start asking, please, no fake. I don't want to buy any fake. I don't want it. I can pay a real, real leather bag. I don't need a fake. If all consumers stand up and say this is what they want, then this is the real cure for the issue. Or otherwise, if it is going to handle by the commercial model, commercially, those giants still making money based on that. They can't, they won't make that resolve overnight. So we're looking for a spotlight coming up to the market. Is that good news is consumer is growing. The good news is consumer is getting more educated, is smarter. They want, as the purchasing power increase, they want to protect themselves more. So they will stand together. And technology-wise, I like to see moving forward how blockchain can come into the picture, because we keep hearing that those big companies like Facebook, in Hong Kong, Cathay Pacific, when those big giant companies, they hold up a lot of data, right? And suddenly, there's a lot of breakout saying that, the data is not being used safely and leak out or something like that. So blockchain can help. Blockchain can definitely link up every single steps, the entire supply chain, from the product being made, product being shipped, product being distributed, payment. Every single step is being hacked by the header, right? And this distributed ledger from blockchain, what they are offering is that no single company, no single giant from now on can control all the data, or can manipulate the data. And in such, every single purchase that I purchase online would then be, well, when I buy something, the whole world knows about it. The whole world knows that, hey, Joseph, you buy something at $200. Nobody can change that. Well, that probably could also be a way. But before we move into this blockchain or a secure supply chain, the first thing is consumer need to make a step that if this is what they wanted. As I have discussed in another discussion before, if the consumer is in purpose, they want to buy fake, well, no system can protect them, right?
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, did you read the questionnaire that I sent out before this webinar or something and know exactly where I was going to go with my question?
No. No.
Could that be? Let me unmute Raymond, because I actually, this is a great lead into my question. I'm still going to read what I wrote, okay? Okay. So we talk a lot about new retail and new technology and innovation, as Joseph was just talking about. And in fact, I wanted to address the facts about China and the blockchain investment, because I noticed it when I was researching for the report, and I thought it would be good to put here. So I have a series of questions, but one of them for you is, I actually noticed a blog from, I'm going to say the company name wrong again because I'm amazing at that.
Allegravita.
Yeah, thank you. From your company, I should just say that, back in March of this year. about the creation of an official committee for the standardization of blockchain and distributed ledger technologies. And in my research, I actually found that 56% of blockchain technology patent applications came last year from China. And then if you compare that, the US is the next closest, and that's 22%. So it's quite substantial, actually. What do you think about this move? Because I know what Joseph was saying is true, that it's about consumers need to be, you know, they will sort of vote with their wallets and with their voices. But what are your thoughts from that perspective of Chinese companies and perhaps the government, I'm not sure, moving towards this kind of technology?
In China, I think the Chinese government is actually very concerned about this new technology, all the new technologies, including the blockchain technology, and they are putting in a lot of thoughts into this actually, and followed up very closely in these new technologies. And blockchain technology in general is not like it's not limited as probably some of the people think. It's only limited to the cryptocurrencies like Bitcoins or like Ethereum. But blockchain technology actually can derive a lot of other industries and to helping other industries to evolve. For example, in the government, these protocols, they actually they support and they showed the support for those for the companies or the groups or research groups to research on the blockchain technology, especially on applications of blockchain technologies. In the first tier cities, even the second tier cities in China, for example, in Beijing, in Shanghai, in Guangzhou, and in Shenzhen, and even in Guizhou and Shandong, and a lot of local governments, they actually have this starting from I think from last year, from 2017, they have this subsidy specifically designed for those companies or research groups who, to research on the blockchain or have running business for the blockchain technology. And those subsidies is not like, it's not small. Some of them, for example, in Guangzhou or in a district in Guangzhou, they have this very big, for example, like 5 million Chinese yuan and subsidy for those companies if you reach some goals and to do either the applications or you applied the blockchain technology into the business and have some achievements, you will have this kind of tax reduction and all this kind of subsidies from the government. So the government is very supportive for this. But meanwhile, as you see from our blog, the new technology often comes with some misuse, I would say. For example, in China, that especially since last year, one of the applications, of course, is in the blockchain technology is the cryptocurrencies. But for China's government, they actually, they don't support. I can say that they don't support the cryptocurrencies, obviously, and they crack down a lot of this kind of cryptocurrency exchanges. For example, last year, and they also banned or we say outlawed the ICOs, initial coin, the offerings. So this kind of stuff, because a lot of companies who use this blockchain technology to do this either ICOs or the cryptocurrencies, they actually is kind of not all, but a lot of them are using this as a kind of scam. It's not like a real business. So that's part of the reason why the government needs to, to outlaw them and to regulate them. And so I think that one angle we see this is the government is actually taking initiative to, to have these protocols, all the rules to help the blockchain technology to grow healthily. Yeah, that's what my take.
Cool. Okay, yeah, no, so it makes sense. So the government does not support cryptocurrencies, but it does support blockchain technology. That's kind of an interesting distinction. Because quite often I think in some other parts of the world, when we talk about blockchain, people automatically, it assumes cryptocurrency. Yeah. They're not the same thing. When you think about a supply chain, and I think that's what's important about where China is moving with this, governmentally wise, with the support from the government. They're not moving in the direction of cryptocurrency, but in supply chain. So that's interesting.
Yeah, for example, sorry.
No, go, please.
Okay, so because for example, the blockchain, the government and all the other research entities in China actually is thinking about all the applications. For example, they want to do it, for example, not in the cryptocurrency, but in, for example, one of the application area is to sourcing all the back tracing all the product lifeline. Because, for example, especially for the food industry, for example, you can see all the food, one piece of steak on your table, it's where it's coming from and from which farm, which ranch, and from which delivery company, and all the logistic and which warehouse. All this information will be put into the blockchain, and then you cannot fake it, and you cannot easily change it. So this will prove this food is it's authentic, or it's provable, it's safe. That's it. That's only for one example. The other one is some of the local governments is also thinking about how to apply the blockchain technology into the accreditation system, because if for example some of the personal informations which can be public or not public, but they can also put all these kind of things into the blockchain and make it more secure and more immutable for changes.
Yeah, and it's so I have an interesting, by the way, if any of our listeners do not know about blockchain, this is not the webinar for you. If we tried, I think maybe the three of us could potentially get it down eventually, but probably not. So you can take a 6-month course somewhere in blockchain, because you'll probably need it to understand it fully. At least I probably will. So I actually have a question for both of you. So I've unmuted you both, and it's regarding this, because I still think too often we're not talking enough about these new technologies, because Joseph already brought up big retailers. I'm not going to name names, Amazon, but we talk about these big retailers and how they're really dominating the market, and I think a lot of us are concerned about that, but a lot of small to medium-sized retailers in particular are wondering, how on earth do I compete with these big box retailers who have access to so many more things than I do? And one of those things is definitely AI. It's machine learning, it's virtual reality, it's all these things, but also blockchain technology. So too often I think we don't know what to do with that topic of new innovation. Do we talk about it and then say, yeah, it's not affordable yet for you? Or do we say how you can, So my question for you both, and I guess we'll start with Raymond, because this is a good little jump off. How do you foresee the move towards blockchain technology, especially maybe amongst the government, or also in retailers as a whole, or by consumers, as Joseph pointed out, if consumers start demanding more and more accountability for the supply chain and the product journey? How do you foresee that move impacting e-commerce, both for big box retailers, but also for SMEs? Is it more beneficial for one or the other? Is it,
So my take is I think it will both affect the SMEs and the big boxes, because the blockchain, for example, when I talk about we are talking about China. In China, that local government is supporting all the businesses, right? Especially for the e-commerce business, because this is a very big part of China's economy now, and all these companies, the local government will support them to be innovative, and to import this blockchain technology into the e-commerce solutions. It's either the supply chain or other counterfeit areas. That's both fine. So I think that's both helpful for the either big or the SMEs. Joseph, throw up to you.
Right. I look at this question in a way that I don't believe at this moment there is somebody really doing a global e-commerce these days. I don't believe. There's definitely heroes in China. There's heroes in America, in Southeast Asia, in Middle East, and there is no such one e-commerce platform that's really going around the world. So every one of the platforms, they are different, and they are looking into the problem themselves in their own region. So like company like in the dominating Southeast Asia, they are focusing on the issue with Southeast Asia. Those big giant in China, they are very much focused into China. When we look into the impact of deploying technologies like blockchains and all that, as I said, I don't see the driver will come from those big companies, because there is no motivation for them to do it, because they believe that their system is already trusted, right? If you are someone living inside Amazon or someone living inside Alibaba, of course they think they are trusted inside, so they have no motivation to go beyond that. If I would put blockchain, I know this is not going to be an educated section for blockchain, but I don't like that. I don't like that sophisticated science, but I rather put blockchain into a plain English. Let's say this: I want to propose a new login account. How's that? Sarah, would you like to? I give you a new login account so that once you log in, you can trade safely in Amazon, trade safely in Alibaba, buy safely in Lazada. How's that? It's a login. And inside the login, every step that you do in Alibaba, every step you do in Lazada, then will be traced by the blockchain ledger. All right. Now I'm speaking English now, not science. Simple as that. But then the question is, would you as a consumer, would you choose to have a second login? And would you trust that login so that from that on, everything you do is protected? So you have a login for your Uber, you have a login for your food delivery, you have a login for your air ticket or everything, every single bit and piece of e-commerce island, what we call island, you have a different login. And if I'm providing you another new login to join this island together safely, would you use it? So the question is back to the consumer themselves. I think the opportunity for SMB or for new entrants coming to the e-commerce market is a good opportunities where, of course, you can also sell into these marketplaces. Nothing wrong in selling in marketplace, but I would say looking forward, like in 3-5 years time, the e-commerce market will start segment into different parts. There are certainly area where the marketplace is active, and there will be certain part where the people selling in Facebook, the people can sell it in LinkedIn, in social media or WeChat. There will also be area where those flagship store where they have their own domain will be survived. So it will not be like what we see today is so much bias to the marketplace anymore. And that's the opportunity I think is good for the SME. And just now I also leave a big topic that is not being answered, is that there is no global player today. I don't believe there is really a true global player. So this is an empty space for somebody trying to grab this.
Okay, I like it. Actually, it's funny because you also brought up these other tools that consumers are currently using. So WeChat is a great one for China. I was quite shocked. I think for many in the Western world or highly developed e-commerce markets, let's say, they're not using WeChat, or most parts of the world, I think they're just not using WeChat. So I feel like all of my questions were about blockchain. I apologize to everybody. So I will move on. And Joseph, I'll keep this question for you for now, and then I'll also ask Raymond. I noticed as well that the mobile purchasing in China is huge, no matter where you are. And I was quite shocked because for I think most of us in Europe, that's not still the case. It's still mainly desktop and laptop that people are purchasing on. And so if you could please tell us more about the mobile purchasing phenomenon we see in China, as it is one of the few developed countries with a highly established e-commerce market where mobile purchasing is actually preferred. How did this happen? And how do SMEs, and I know Raymond will have a really great marketing perspective on this, so that'll be cool. But how can you see SMEs benefiting from this, and especially if they're coming from cross-border, how can you see them incorporating this into their ideas and marketing strategies, I guess, or strategies as a whole?
Well, I think this question is relatively easy, and this phenomenon is just not begins from China, but wherever there's countries where the infrastructure, like in the 90s, are not well developed. You know, when we talk about internet, we talk about everything start from the year 1992. All right, so 1992 was internet, www, World Wide Web started, in 1993 where the Yahoo started, and everything started from there. So country where they already have good infrastructure of computer network infrastructure in the 90s, right? They likely now still have some legacies of computer, computer screens, desktop, right? And people are still, from the Microsoft Windows age, right? Countries that are only start developing their digital gadgets from millennium onward, country like China, Southeast Asia, and some countries, they didn't really start from the computer or microcomputer PC. The first digital gadgets that those people have on hand maybe is their phone. And the first time they get onto the internet is not a fixed line broadband. The first time they get into the internet is their 4G connections. So imagine if you are living in a country like that, the first ever get into internet is a mobile reception, then obviously they won't use a desktop. And so country like in China, after 3G and 4G deployment, and with the low cost 4G smartphone, I mean, you can easily get a 4G smartphone in China for as low as, I guess, 50 euro, or even down to 30 euro. So 50 euro, 30 euro, you can get a decent, okay, no brand smartphone. Imagine you are in a country like that, every single teenagers and elderly, they can afford this. Then of course, then the market will go into mobile phone. It evolved into several key applications that I would like to point out here to make the mobile commerce, or to make the mobile market be so big, because if you see this, you will see the same thing happen in another country, in another regions. The thing is, number one is obviously social media on your mobile. So in China in particular, that's WeChat. So, and that has a basic thing connected with your communication. So daily communication, you're using that to communicate. So no more ICQ, no more MSN, right? Everybody is having a phone, WhatsApp, Line, WeChat. So that's the first thing. The second thing that makes your mobile commerce happen as a majority, obviously, is your e-wallet. Where's your wallet? In China, everybody's saying that you can take away my wallet, but don't take away my phone, because the phone is a wallet. So where the wallet sits, I mean, Yahoo tried to make a wallet last decade. Did it success? Not success, because you don't carry your computer along in the bus. So you only carry your phone. So whenever you have a mobile wallet in it, that's where you start having mobile commerce. And then the last thing, last but not least, is where do you go to call a taxi? So where is the apps that are allowing you to make your transportation, right? And in China, Didi is what kicking out the Uber. A lot of people said the battle between Alipay and WeChat Pay, who will win at the end, depends on when you finish a journey taking a taxi, which payment will you use? That makes a difference whether WeChat win or Alipay win. See, it's the taxi apps make the last decision difference. So what convinced me to use WeChat or Alipay when I'm on a taxi? Of course, then in China we have a term called red pocket, Raymond, right? So we have an electronic red pocket that giving out, it's like a coin system, coupon system, or a reward system. So I will feel like the more I spend on WeChat, every single journey that I take on taxi using WeChat, if I get more red pocket rebates, then I will go for that one. So the last battlefield to make the two giants, who will win, who will lose, in fact, is whoever occupy the transportation payment service. So these are, I think, the interesting findings that it may not be familiar if you are a foreigner, if you are European, if you are a African, you may not hear this story, but if you're Chinese, you know what I'm talking about.
Okay, so it sounds okay, because I'm going to ask Raymond the same question, but from a perspective, you got to start us in the beginning, Raymond, because I think for a lot of people, like as an American, I'm sort of like, what's WeChat? I don't know. Is that just for messaging? I'm not quite sure. So start us from the very beginning. What is it that you need to do in your strategy if you're going to go cross-border, especially from one of these countries where we would love to carry our laptops with us if we could onto the bus? How do we, what do retailers do with this information? Where do they even begin? How do they choose? How do they do that?
Yeah, that's for example, actually for our, for my company's clients, we first thing we take them to China. First thing we suggest to them is, you need to get on to WeChat. WeChat is basically the China's WhatsApp. Not like it's not like a copy, but you can compare it to WhatsApp. It's basically the functionality and it's very similar, but WeChat has I have to say with much more functionalities. For example, it's Joseph already covered a lot of this. I can just add in something because for example in China, I would say WeChat helped a lot of people get into the digital age or digital era, because before that, as Joseph said, there is people in China, they don't use computers. They don't use desktop computers that much. I mean that there is not that much people who use desktop computers or even know how to use a computer. But with smartphone coming out, and especially with WeChat coming out, a lot of people, because they want to connect to people, they want to connect to their friends or the kids, for example, all the elderly people, the parents, they want to connect to their kids, the teenage kids or the 20s or kids. So they had to get onto WeChat, and the easiest way for them to talk to the kids, and because back then the phone, actually you make a phone call, a long distance phone call, is actually pretty costly. But WeChat developed the functionality to allow you to make phone calls and through it, using your data, and the cost is much lower. So that's one thing. And then by the end of last year, actually, in China, we have there is reports that we have 800 million people, 800 internet people. So, and among them, more than 98% of these online people, they are actually using a mobile phone or mobile device to get online. So this is a very big, part of this. And for e-commerce, actually, the red envelope or red pocket, it helped a lot for people to get used to this mobile payments, first of all. And also, I think for the e-commerce, the easier of the payments is also improved people, to get online and get online trading and e-commerce. For example, in China, up to this year, we have like more than 500 million people are shopping online. So this related closely to WeChat payments and Alipay and this all kinds of payments, because they can pay easily instead of you need to go to the bank and wire transfer something to another company and without. And this mobile payments is also a very big help for the e-commerce in China. And for cross-border e-commerce, for those for the companies who wants to come into China and to grow the market in China, I think the first suggestion from me is is you need to have China's mobile payments, either Alipay or the WeChat Pay or other anything that supports Chinese people to easily to pay for your products. That's one thing. And the other thing is, I think when you come to China, you need to get your brand, to well recognized by the Chinese people, well memorable and well easily used. That's one of the benefits. For example, we actually have a very close partner. It's called Hey.shop, HEY.shop. This, that brand is very easy to remember, and you can just input and very short, right? So it's very easy for the people to remember you and to visit you again, and then you can grow a lot of business on that brand. So first of all, you need to get mobile payments right, and you get onto WeChat and connect to people, and all the social functions. This social functions in those mobile apps in WeChat or in the Alipay, they all helped a lot too, because people in China they use, because a lot of people they basically stick on to the mobile phone the whole day. A lot of people actually they might not even use a computer these days, for the all the way, and they always use their phone, and they connect to people, and they work, they communicate with the work colleagues and the friends, the parents, and the relatives. They all use the WeChat to connect to them, and they also do e-commerce within WeChat. So WeChat, to a lot of people, there is a saying in China that WeChat is the internet for a lot of people. So so basically you need to get on WeChat.
It's funny because what you're saying, what you and Joseph have said, I always say, now that I live in the Netherlands, I always say that Dutch people, when they're born, they are given a bike immediately. Like either that or they come out riding a bike. It seems like when it comes to Chinese, they actually come out and they hand them a mobile phone. Then that seems to be.
Yeah, I can say that. A lot of kids in China actually they do have a mobile phone, because as Joseph said, the mobile phones, cost of the smartphones in China recent days it's pretty it's pretty cheap now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really, yeah. And I also think it leads to some interesting cultural differences, right? And one of the questions that I was thinking of asking you
Mhm.
was, what are, and of course, Joseph can opine as well, but I'm curious, Raymond, when it comes to cultural differences, what are some of the preferences that you see amongst Chinese consumers purchasing, but specifically from foreign websites? So, of course, mobile, as you said, but I was also thinking of things like language. Is language really a concern? Yeah, or even just how you display a web page. I know that, some consumers like to see a web page very clean and minimalist, and where others might prefer something different. So can you explain about that?
Yeah, sure. For the e-commerce sites, actually the cultural difference is pretty big. As we observed over the years. For example, in China, if you look at all the China's, the websites, it's quite, we can say it's quite different from the Western websites, because in China more is more. In the Western, we always say the less is more or more is less, right? But in China, more is more. You need to put a lot of information. You need to stuff the screen with a lot of information to attract people, actually. so back in, for example, the websites, the e-commerce websites, any websites you visit, you will see they are well designed for mobile device. That's one thing. Maybe for a lot of the Western websites, some of them they have majority clients will visit the websites daily or on daily basis on the desktop computers. But in China, 99% of the users might visit your website on the e-commerce websites using their mobile phone. So the web page will need to be more mobile friendly. That's for one thing. And the other thing is you need to get your the language. It's talking about language. The Chinese people, from the elementary schools, actually a lot of people, they do study, they have English classes. A lot of people, they do have English, that a lot of schools. But the English is, to be frank, is not that good. So it's basic. They will understand basically, but into deep. For example, the product of your product descriptions, or the functionalities or the features, it's better if you have Chinese, not than only English languages, because you will get more consumers to get customers if you have the Chinese language websites, which very friendly to them. If you only have English, you will have attract some clients, but will not grow very fast and grow very widely in China. So basically, for the cross-border e-commerce, for those in China, actually Chinese people recently, they especially since around these 2 years, the cross-border e-business in China is grow very fast too. Not only the e-commerce inside China, but also the cross-border. Why? Because Chinese people are getting getting rich, and the middle class is getting more and more middle class people, and they want, for example, this is maybe related to Joseph's the Joseph answers, because in China there are some scandals in China, for the last few years, the food or the counterfeit products in China, there is a lot of scandals, and those middle class people, they have the money, they want to buy good products, and the real products, especially food or cosmetics, this kind of products, good qualities. for themselves or for the families, for the children. And so that's why they're using cross-border e-business to shopping outside of China, abroad. And because of the logistics and the supply chain, all these kind of things are working towards to helping the cross-border business. Especially in China, for example, we have worked in a city called Yiwu in Zhejiang province. It's in southern China. It's southern east of China. It's a little city with it's like a 40-year city, but it's the center of the world commodities. We see that because in that city, you can see a lot of foreigners, actually more than Beijing. You can see foreigners more than Beijing in that 4th-tier city. In that city, a lot of e-commerce activities. They do a lot of cross-border e-business, and we work with the EU e-commerce government, EU government of e-commerce part very closely because of .shop, project, and .shop is helping them to grow the cross-border e-business too. And for them, the government has established a lot of good facilities for the cross-border e-business. For example, they have postal facilities. They expedite all the import and export logistics very quickly, and the exchange they have different and special exchange policies, and then other than the other part of the China, and all these kind of things are basically they are working and supporting the cross-border e-business in both ways, the importing or the export their own product outside of China. So that's I'm not sure this answers your question.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect. I'm actually just getting yelled at by my fellow marketing my team that they're like, okay, Sarah, it's 11. But if you guys have just 10 more minutes or 5 maybe, I don't know, I would love to just ask another 1 or 2 questions. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And for our listeners, well, sorry, more information. Okay, Joseph, I kind of want to ask you the same question, but with an extra, so we will wrap it as a bit. But about the culture question, I'm also curious to know what you would say when it comes to what you need to consider. Of course, we heard from Raymond that, yeah, language is something to consider. You will, of course, get more people, and also the mobile is super important, and selling cross-border. So there's that aspect of it, but I'm also curious, we've talked a bit about the big box players, Amazon, and we know, I was surprised because I saw that Amazon is actually not the leading marketplace in China. And I'm wondering how if culture impacts that and why Amazon is not leading the way, or if it's sort of what you said earlier, where there's nobody in the global sort of e-commerce sphere yet that is completely, so Amazon hasn't totally taken over. So what is it about China that makes it difficult, or Chinese consumers that make it difficult for Amazon to be the top dog there, whereas they are in some other markets, let's say?
I think it is more than language. I agree with what Raymond just said. Language is not a difficulty these days. The reason why it is getting so difficult for a foreign company to be leading in China or in a different country is more than just language issue. It is like the culture, the psychology of every single consumer in different places think differently. The priority is different. Some places they want to have discounts and discount. Some places they want to have a faster delivery. So there's a different, very cultural difference, and I think that makes the reason why you can't find a true winner for the whole world. The way how you think you don't understand China. Well, I'm living in Hong Kong for my life. if we score someone understand Beijing, like Raymond, is 100, okay, 100, score 100. If Sarah, you are 5 out of 100 understand Beijing, let me tell you this, I'm in Hong Kong, the way I understand Beijing, maybe only 10. So I'm not too far from you, Sarah. That's the problem of the localization. Even though I'm sitting in Hong Kong, 4 hours to Beijing, I can say I speak different Chinese than Raymond. I write different. We pronounce totally different. He don't understand me. So 4 hours flight here in Beijing. You know, if you understand Beijing is 5 of 100, I'm probably a little bit more better than you. I may be only 10. So how can anybody from overseas that can come all the way to China and be the local? Well, what I say is the internet is bring everybody closer. You agree with me, right? But internet is also magnifying the cultural difference 10 times, 100 times than the traditional trade before. In the past, I don't need to know that much about the Middle East Israel people. I don't need to know that much about the Indians. But with the internet, you cannot say you don't know them, because one punch of a key, you are in India. So the internet magnifying the problems a lot, like different people, different language, different thinking. So my last advice is that you either be local or not be local, and don't try to be in the middle. What I see a lot of failure cases is you try to be local and you try to fly some expat come to Beijing and then learn Chinese. Forget about it. You can't learn it. You know, if you want to be local, hire local people to do the local things. All right. Or don't try to be local. I mean, why local? I mean, if you are a European brand, stay Europeans. Because sometimes when Chinese, we fly to Paris, we go to Lafayette, we like Lafayette. We don't want Lafayette speak in Chinese. Okay? So don't try to be local where you're not local. You know, we want the European taste. Give us the European taste. So sometimes, you know, a lot of failure that we see is they try to make themselves local and all fail. And it is not just for European come to China. Let me tell you this, many Chinese company, local mainland Chinese company, Raymond, if I say wrong, please correct me. They try to go international. They try to go to Southeast Asia and then acquire Lazada. And then after they acquire Lazada, they fire all the Lazada people, change the Hangzhou people to Lazada in Singapore. And guess what? Lazada is dropping now. Another example for you, the market leading in Korea, supposed to be G Market, right? G Market is the big player in Korea. After G Market being purchased by eBay, all right, the founder of G Market has relocated to be the chief of eBay in Asia, sitting in Singapore. And you know, guess what? Just after that happens, the #1 player in Korea now is 11th Street, not G Market anymore. So even though you are a big giant in that market, but if you're being purchased by a US company, you're gone. You're gone. You are not #1 anymore. So this is the tiny little things that to keep you local, you know, is a very magical word that don't try to duplicate that.
Okay. Okay, I feel this is so fun. Okay, so I get it. Okay, so if you're European or you're American, when you come to China, don't either do it right or go big or go home. So either do it right or don't do it at all. So that leads us to the next question about the U.S. and China. No, I'm just kidding. We will actually wrap it up there for fear of touching on some very sensitive topics. I think this has been probably one of the most fun webinars I've ever done. This has been great. I don't know a whole lot about the Chinese market. Making the report, this is my second time making the report this year, but it was really enlightening. But I feel like I can read these statistics, but I don't quite understand the story always. And so talking to you guys has been really, really great. And I think I could do this for another hour, I think, easily, or 2 or 3. And I still would probably not understand blockchain or Chinese e-commerce. But I think it's been great. So thank you on behalf of all of us. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
And
Thank you, Joseph.
For my shameless plugs at the end, please definitely do check out the report. Joseph is actually featured in it. We should really put Raymond in it. I don't know. We should publish with an interview from Raymond, I think. If you have any questions of our listeners, please do contact me. And if it's for one of our speakers, I will forward it along to them so they can get back with you. Of course, definitely thanks to Raymond and Joseph and Dot Shop, a great sponsor, of course, to make it free. So I don't know what else I can say other than thank you. And let's do this again sometime soon, yeah?
Sure.
Thank you.
Bye,
Take care.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.